Hi everyone. In the immunology subject, in this part, we are going to discuss about antigens or immunogens. So, antigens or immunogens can be defined as a macromolecule which, upon introduction into the body, stimulates the production of antibodies and reacts specifically with them, can be defined as a antigen or immunogen. Simply, the antigen or immunogen is a large organic molecule capable of stimulating the production of specific antibodies and with which it may chemically combine is going to be called as antigen or immunogen. In simple terms, substances capable of inducing a specific immune response are called antigens. Okay, and these antigens or antigenic molecules may be almost all proteins and most polysaccharides, and then nucleoproteins, lipoproteins, glycoproteins, and various small biomolecules if they are attached to proteins or polypeptides. And that means these all components that I told you, proteins, nucleoproteins, are all going to be the components of naturally occurring substances like bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms, and even some foreign proteins such as pollen, egg white, and metabolic product of microorganisms and living cells from different animal species all can be considered or all can act as antigens to our body. Then next topic is a type of antigen. So before going into the type of antigens, just I want to mention the basic properties of antigen. So coming to the basic properties of antigen, the it is going to possess the two main properties. Those are, that means antigens are going to categorized by having the two essential properties. The first one is the antigenicity and second one is the immunogenicity. Antigenicity, the capacity of an antigen to retain its antigenic nature even after entering the host. Okay, even after entering the host is called as antigenicity. That means it is not going to involve in the stimulation of antibodies, okay, but it is going to retain its structure and can bind with the uh, antibody and it can react, but it is not stimulating the production of antibodies. So that is going to be called as antigenicity. Okay, then coming to the immunogenicity, the ability of an antigen to stimulate the production of antibodies is called as immunogenicity. That means here uh, an antigen or immunogen will induce the specific immune response, particularly either it may be a humoral, that is related to the production of antibodies, or it may be a cell mediated. So if an antigen is able to stimulate the immune response either by humoral, that is antibodies, or by the cell mediated, then that property is going to be called as immunogenicity. Whereas here, this property, that is antigenicity, is just retaining and it will react, but it is not going to stimulate the production of specific immune response. Okay, so these are the two basic properties that every antigen should possess if it is going to be a good antigen. Good antigen means a very virulent or pathogenic in nature. Okay, so if an antigen possesses both the properties, that is antigenicity and immunogenicity, we call that type of antigen as a complete antigen or complete immunogen. Suppose if the antigen that has the property of immunoreactivity, that is antigenicity only, but no immunogenicity, that means no stimulation of the immune response, then we call them as incomplete antigen or hapten molecule. Incomplete antigen or hapten molecule. Now, what is a hapten or incomplete antigen? Let's have a look. The haptens are the substances which are incapable of inducing specific immune response, that is antibody formation, but can react with antibodies, that is antigen property is there. That's why we are calling them as incomplete antigens, isn't it? Okay, then haptens can be converted into immunogenic, that means capable of inducing the antibody formation on combining or by attaching to a molecule that produce the antibody formation is going to be called as carrier molecules. Okay, so if you are going to combine these haptens with the carrier molecule, then those are becoming the complete antigen. The molecule that attach it to the that of a carrier is going to be called as haptenic determinants, and the complex is called as hapten carrier conjugate. So here you can see these are the hapten molecules, that is incomplete antigens, and then combining with the carrier molecules giving rise to the complete antigen or hapten carrier conjugate. Okay, now we will discuss about the types of antigens and then we will move to the other topics. So coming to the types of antigens, why I skipped and gone to the basic properties means here in the types you must have the complete antigen and incomplete antigen. For that reason, first of all we are supposed to read about the basic properties and then we are supposed to read about the types. So coming to the types of antigens, we are going to have the different types of antigens depending upon their nature, reaction, production, all these things. Okay, let's see the first one, complete antigen. The antigen that has both the characters of antigenicity, that is reacting with the antigen, retaining its structure, and immunogenicity, that is stimulating the production of antibodies, then we call them as complete antigen. Then what is an incomplete antigen? The antigen that has only antigenicity but no immunogenicity, then we call them as incomplete antigen. This is what we have discussed in the properties, isn't it? Then moving to the autoantigens or alloantigens. Autoantigens are going to be the self molecules escaped from the tolerance, that means our defense system, and which are exposed to the immune system recognizes as antigens or called as autoantigens. So example, some nucleoproteins, nucleic acids are going to act as a autoantigens, and these autoantigens are going to have a very prominent role in causing the autoimmunity disorders. So we will discuss that autoimmunity in another part. And then coming to the third, that is a fourth type of antigen type, that is alloantigen or isoantigen. The non-self molecules like pathogen transplantation organs may act as isoantigens or alloantigen. That means the antigens which show genetic variation among members of the same species, whereas here in the auto is going to be in all individuals of the same species, but here it is going to genetic variation among members of the same species. Example, we can go with the blood group antigens, then HeLa antigens and H2 antigens are the best examples of alloantigens or isoantigens. And then moving to the next type of antigen is mosaic antigen. Yes, mosaic, so mixture of all the things. The antigens that are chemically complex, composed of different compounds, is going to be called as mosaic. So different, all the parts of it is going to act as an antigen property. Then we call them as mosaic antigens. For example, take bacteria. In the gram-negative bacteria, lipopolysaccharide, its nucleoproteins, all the things are going to act as antigens. So those are going to be called as mosaic antigen. Then coming to the super antigens, the name itself is indicating super antigens. The antigens having the additional property of hypersensitivity in addition to immunogenicity and antigenicity. Man, Superman, in the same manner, an antigen is going to have both the antigenicity and immunogenicity. It's an antigen or immunogen. In addition to these things, if hypersensitivity is also going to be added, then we call such type of antigens as super antigens. Okay, then coming to the heterophilic antigen, the antigens that can bind to the antibody produced for some other antigen is called as heterophilic antigen. For example, if a Vibrio cholera enters into our body and our body is going to respond it and producing the antibodies against Vibrio cholera antigen. Now, and second time, if a salmonella bacteria is entering into our body, and now this salmonella is going to have the reaction with the Vibrio cholera's antibody. So then those are going to be called as heterophilic antigens. The antigens that can bind to the antibody produced for some other antigen is going to be called as heterophilic antigens. Okay. So next type is T cell dependent antigen, T cell independent antigen. That is T cell means thymus dependent antigen. It is a type of antigen that does not stimulate antibody response, that is no immunogenicity. Okay, but it is going to have the helper T cells cooperation is needed in order of B lymphocytes to respond. Such antigens in producing antibody forming cells are going to be called as T cell dependent antigens. Examples: proteins with a diversity of antigenic determinants can be called as, what is this antigenic determinants? We will discuss. Antigenic determinants is the best example of T cell dependent antigen. That means these antigens will depend on the T cell for stimulating the production of antibodies. Then moving to the next type is T cell independent antigen, and it is a type of antigen which is able to stimulate B lymphocytes to produce the antibodies. That means here you are going to see the immunogenicity nature. Example is polysaccharides with respecting antigen determinant and glycopolysaccharide from gram-negative bacteria are the best examples of T cell independent antigens. So these are the different types of antigens. So we have gone through the complete antigen, then we have gone through the incomplete antigen, then autoantigens, then alloantigens, mosaic, super, heterophilic, T cell dependent antigen, and T cell independent antigen. So we have gone through the properties, and now we are going to discuss about antigenic determinants or antigen determinant or epitope. So you may get this topic as a short note for your short answers. Okay. Then what is an antigen determinant or epitope? The part of the antigen with which the antibody gets attachment is known as epitope. Okay, so whereas the part with which an antigen binds to an antibody is called as paratope. So in the antibody it is called as paratope, and in the antigen it is called as epitope. The part of the antigen with which the antibody gets attachment is known as epitope, also known as antigen determinant site. And this epitope is a small area with a specific chemical structure and steric configuration which determines the antibody specificity. So it is going to have a small, it is very small area, that means the part at which the antibody can come and bind to it. So I will show you here. So for example, so here the antibody containing the region at which it is going to bind is called as a paratope, and here these are going to be called as epitopes. So these are all going to act as the epitopes. So chemically, epitope includes, that means these epitopes are going to be sugars, amino acids or amino acid chains, and they can be of organic acids and bases, and even some hydrocarbons and aromatic groups. And each antigen may contain more than one antigenic determinant or epitopes. For example, see here, there are so many epitopes, isn't it? That's what. So each antigen may have one or more than one. So all of them are maximally containing the more than one antigenic determinant site or epitope. And coming to the number of antigenic determinants or epitopes is called as valency of antigens. So how many epitopes are going to be present on an antigen? That is going to be called as valence of antigens. And the antigens with one determinant site are called as is going to be called as multivalent antigens. The epitopes determine, that means the antigens with more than one, it's not one, with more than one determinant site are going to be called as multivalent antigens. So here is some mistake, with more than one determinant site are going to be called as multivalent antigens. So here this figure is going to show it as a multivalent antigens. And the epitope is going to determine the antigenic specificity, and it is going to provoke the antibody production. So this determinant is going to cause all the immunogenicity, antigenicity, all the things. Okay, so here immunogenicity is a nature that is going to be mainly because of these antigenic determinants or epitopes. And these epitopes are going to be of two types. How many types? Two types. One is going to be called as functional epitopes, and the second one is going to be called as hidden epitopes. One is called as functional epitopes, and the second one is going to be called as hidden epitopes. What is a functional epitope and what is a hidden epitope? Let's see. The epitopes to which the antibody binds and is called as functional epitope. So these are going to be the functional epitope. These are going to be the functional epitope, and these are going to be the functional epitope. That means the epitopes to which an antibody binds is going to be called as functional epitope. Then what is a hidden epitope? The unseen. So here the unseen, unbound epitopes are called as hidden epitopes. The valency of an antigen is going to the sum of both functional epitopes as well as the hidden epitopes. For example, the valency of antigen, that is a BSA, bovine serum albumin, is 18. Okay, that means it contains of total how many epitopes? 18 epitopes are there, out of which 6 are going to be functional. That means 6 epitopes are going to have binding with the antibodies. And what about the other 12? So those are going to be called as hidden epitopes. Okay, so this is all about the antigenic determinant site or epitope, which is very important. Once again, a quick review of it. The part of the antigen with which an antibody binds to it is going to be called as antigen determinant or epitope. The part of the antigen with which antibody gets attachment is known as epitope or antigen determining site. Okay, and this is going to be of two types. One is going to be the functional epitope and another one is going to be the hidden epitopes. Functional means the one which is going to have binding with the antibodies are called as functional epitopes. Here you can see these are functional, and these can be unbound as well as the hidden, so which are not going to have any binding, so those are going to be called as hidden epitopes, unseen and unbound. So together of all the epitopes, that is functional and hidden, together gives the valency of that particular antigen. Okay, so this is all about the epitopes. So remember, the epitope is the antibody binding site. Then moving to the factors that are affecting this antigenicity, or there are several factors, and here we are discussing only few, that is size, chemical complexity, foreignness and solubility. So these are the major four factors that are affecting the antigenicity, that means retaining the antigen structure and reacting with the antibody. Then coming to the first one, the size. The very large molecules are highly antigenic than the small molecules with low molecular weight. So that means, because if they are very large, obviously they will be very strong. So they can retain their antigenic nature and can combine with antibodies. Example, the substances of molecular weight 5,000 to 10,000 Daltons are poor immunogens or antigens, whereas the substances of molecular weight of having more than 1 lakh Daltons are highly potent antigens or immunogens. So that's how larger molecules are going to be highly antigenic. Then coming to the chemical complexity. As a chemical complex increases, the antigenic nature also increases. Example, proteins are highly antigenic than carbohydrates because more complex nature is there in the proteins when compared to carbohydrates, and than the lipids because of their chemical complexity. And coming to the structure, viruses are more immunogenic than bacteria because I told you viruses are going to have the more nature of the proteins, isn't it? So obviously viruses are more immunogenic than bacteria, and they contribute lifelong immunity to some infections. Example, measles. So we had seen the size. So depending upon more the size, more immunogenicity will be. More complex chemical nature. So obviously more antigenicity. Then coming to the foreignness. Only antigens which are foreign to the individual induce an immune response. That means as the foreignness increases, antigenicity also increases. That means more it should be of not and related to us. It should be of very foreign. Then only we are going to have. For example, bovine serum albumin is more antigenic to rabbit than the mice than to cow. So here, bovine serum albumin is more related to the cow than the rabbit and the mice. And then coming to the solubility, as the solubility increases, antigenicity also increases. How much it is going to dissolve? We cannot separate it. That means the antibodies may not recognize them. So that can be one of the reasons. Okay. So more the solubility, antigenicity also increases. And small antigens are easily soluble and so less antigenic. So these are the few factors that are affecting the antigenicity. So in this antigen topic, we had gone through the definition of the antigen, and then we had gone to the basic properties of an antigen, then we had gone through the types of antigens, then we had gone through an important topic called as epitope or antigen determinant site, and finally the factors affecting the antigenicity. Okay, I hope you understood well. Thank you.